good afternoon and welcome to 802 Scoop Table Talk, located right here at 185 North Main Street in Barrie. Jeff is not with us today. He's off playing at camp, but that's okay because we've invited a special guest today. I want to make sure that I say the right name. So I'm going to leave, not your name, like you're Sharon, but Central Vermont
Solid Waste Management District.
Management District.
But you could just call us Central Vermont Waste District. We know you mean us.
And then we'll all know, right? And you used to, are you the ones that were in the location right here in Barrie?
Yes.
Next to the Dollar General, correct?
Yes, right behind the Dollar General in the old Times Argus building. Yes.
And you've moved?
We have. We have relocated out of the flood zone up to 300 Granger Road in Berlin in the industrial park. Our office is open, but our facility is still under construction. Yeah.
And hopefully to open soon.
Soon, after September. We're going to probably be opening in phases, so we would open and resume taking the materials that we were taking at the ARC. And then once we get a flammables building, which is prefabricated, then we'll be able to start accepting household hazardous waste by appointment.
Oh, okay. So, so you won't have normal hours. Will everything be by appointment?
We're going to have to, because hazardous waste is so, you have to be so careful with it. And the kind of intake that we'll have will be very different. Somebody can still bring us, maybe they have an old television and some food scraps, some scrap metal, or we'll resume our plastic film program. Maybe they'll bring in a whole bunch of different things, and we'll still need them to make an appointment because we only have one intake. So if everybody was just showing up and we had a line of cars and maybe somebody in the middle had a hazardous waste situation like a spill or something like that, then we would have a cluster of cars and it wouldn't be a safe situation. So we're going to have to set up a scheduling program so that people come through. We don't have a big backup of cars because we're entering a whole new world with the hazardous waste intake. And we're going to be new at it. We do have one person who's worked for 18 years doing this at Chittenden Solid Waste who came to us with their permission. We did not steal him. But he's a huge asset. But the rest of us are going to be learning. And we're taking all these trainings, but it takes practice. And we want to make sure that we're doing it right and we're doing it safely.
Well, yeah. and that's a good thing. So before we get too deep into what it is that you do, and let's tell everybody what your full name is and what your title is, what you do at
Okay, yes. Yeah. My name is Sharon Fagard. I'm with the Central Vermont Solid Waste Management District. I'm PR and outreach coordinator, but I started as a program coordinator. So I was in operations. I was at the ARC and working with the customers and then making sure materials were handled and packaged and shipped properly. But now I'm outreach. So if you happen to have a business, I would love to come visit you and help make sure that you're recycling or diverting food scraps and doing it well and with as much ease as possible, and offer whatever wisdom or tools I can.
Yeah, and when we talk about business, it's often, even restaurant, any kind of business, there's a lot of stuff to recycle. There's chemicals and
Yes.
There's a whole lot to a business that people don't always, even I, on a daily basis in my own home, I don't always think about what I'm necessarily throwing out. I'm not good about making sure always.
Right, and that's, it's kind of an interesting dynamic because when we buy something at the store, whether it's the hardware store, the grocery store, or online just for use in our homes or kind of simple use in our business. I'm not talking about like an auto body shop or another like a mechanic, but just we assume that if we can buy it, it's probably safe, and we may not know that it is hazardous, a hazardous material. It's a hazardous waste once it is no longer being used and it is going to be disposed of. So people make assumptions that things are safe. The thing that's interesting in the European Union, there are thousands of chemicals that they will not sell to the public that are sold to the public here every day because they're not safe. And this all started happening a couple decades ago, and the lobbyists all went over there, but it didn't work because those countries pay for the health care, so asthma and cancer and birth defects are hits against their federal budgets instead of good for the gross domestic product like they are here.
So where does it all start?
Where does it start? Well, the good news is that every time we make a purchase, we're in a position of power. So if we use resources and tools to learn how to identify problematic versus safer alternatives in the marketplace, we can bring materials in that are safer for us, that are not going to be carcinogens or asthmagens or cause developmental delays in children and things like this. There are a few ways to go about it. One, avoid fragrances if at all possible. The term fragrance-free means nothing was added to cover or enhance a fragrance. Unscented means they may have covered a fragrance using a chemical. So fragrance-free is good. You want products that disclose all of their ingredients. Very few of them do. Fragrances are trade secrets, by the way, so they don't have to tell you what's in it, not even on the safety data sheet. And oftentimes there can be dozens and dozens of chemicals in a single fragrance, and many of them can be known hazardous materials that cause real harm, but it's a trade secret, so they don't have to divulge that. There are some organizations that are impartial third parties that look at different products for their safety and whether or not they work, and then they rate them. So the ones that if you see the logo on the product, they're probably okay, are Green Seal, and those are for cleaners and other things. The EPA's Healthy Home, which is also for cleaners and other things. And then the EPA is designed for the environment, and that is specifically for disinfectants, because disinfectants are registered pesticides because they're designed to kill organisms. So there's also a website, the Environmental Working Group. They don't put logos on products for folks, but you can go through into any of those databases, and you can look for your products and see if they meet the safety standards. Environmental Working Group also has a database called Skin Deep, and it's for personal care products, so hair dye, makeup, lotion, sunblock, shampoo, conditioner, anything that we put on our body. And you can find out if what you're using is safer or if it's not so safe, and they rate it, I think it's 0 to 5, with 0 being the safest. Yeah.
So you go to the dump at the end of the week. A lot of people bring their own, you see the trash drops and stuff all over the place. And if you go to the dump in Montpelier, the actual transfer station, are there places that you can bring some of these things that you're talking about other than to you?
No, there are not. And one way to identify whether something is hazardous waste, and there's a couple different classifications. We have something called universal waste, but we're calling it special recycling, and that's the stuff you could bring to the ARC. That was your fluorescent bulbs, your house paint, your small batteries. I'm having a brain glitch. Batteries, house paint, mercury thermostats. And, oh yeah, TVs, computers, and things associated with computers like keyboards, monitors, things like that. Those special recycling things, you can often bring those to the, like the electronics maybe, to the dump, or they might have a place for some of those other things, but they never have a place for the hazardous waste. On our website, the things I just listed, you can find free local outlets for those. We have it designed by the area that you live in, whether you're like in Duxbury or Hardwick or Tunbridge or Barry Montpelier or Bradford. So, but the hazardous waste are usually a chemical, right? And they almost always have a signal word on them. On the front, it might say flammable or toxic or poison or danger or warning or caution, and those words are always all capitalized. And they're there because they're legally required to be there, though people don't understand that and they don't know what it means. So, for instance, danger means a taste to a teaspoon is the lethal dose. And it just says danger, keep out of reach of children, not danger, a taste to a teaspoon's a lethal dose. Maybe not for everybody, but you know, an 18-year-old, 200-pound healthy man is different than a 70-year-old woman or a pregnant woman or a 12-year-old child. Yeah.
What do you say to those that feel like it's too expensive to do it the right way, to do it your way? Right now, we always talk about costs of everything, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's expensive to do anything. So, and with that, we often know that things get put in the landfill that we don't necessarily want there.
Right.
That you just put it in the garbage with the rest of your stuff, and it goes because that's $5.75 or 25 cents a bag, whatever it is now. But for a lot of families and people, that's a lot of money still.
Sure.
So how do we get to a point where people feel like they can afford to separate things and do things without hoarding them, because that's not safe either?
Right. Your basement might get flooded, which we know all too well here. And I understand people on fixed incomes, especially, or people trying to raise children in a world where health insurance is through the roof. It's a challenge. So we have seasonal household hazardous waste collection events. We charge $20 a car, regardless of how many households worth of material are in those cars. We ask how many households because we report to the state how many households we've served. If you are storing those materials safely, like putting them in bins, you know, the containers and bins upright, it's not a problem if you have more than one household's worth of stuff in the car and you can share that cost. When we have a year-round facility where you can come in, it's going to be like $10 for the first 10 gallons, you know, by container, because we never mix chemicals, ever. Never mix chemicals. That is not safe. You never know, for instance, you would never want to mix an ammonia compound with bleach because that creates chlorine gas, which is lethal. And like that Lysol, the things that say alkyl dimethyl benzyl ammonium chloride in them, those are ammonia based. And so I've seen where people are like, well, I want it to clean better, so I just mix it. I'm like, oh dear, no, it's not worth your life. So we never mix chemicals. We're trying to keep it affordable because we understand this and we want it to be safe. The good news is the state is working on, you know, I mentioned those things that are free to get rid of earlier, the fluorescent bulbs, the house paint, the household batteries, the mercury thermostats, and the other one, the computers and TVs and things associated with computers. Those are free because they're under an extended producer responsibility program. So those that are manufacturing and selling those have had to contribute money to the state so that the people who are disposing of them from their households and from their businesses, there are more restrictions on the businesses, but don't have to pay when they bring them to get rid of them. The state is working on that for hazardous waste so that we would be able to take these things free of charge. They're going to have a limited list of items or materials, but that's kind of what we have to do. And the manufacturers, you know, if you can make something more safely, but you're cutting costs, and, you know, then the cost of doing business should be including making sure that we're keeping our communities and our families safe when we dispose of it. Because it doesn't go away just because you put it in the landfill. It goes into the air and the water when that container breaks. Yeah.
So the companies need to be investing in the disposal as well.
Yes,
For sure.
absolutely. And that's worked really well with those items that we've already got the EPR program for.
We're being asked for the link for your website so
Great.
that people can see those lists.
Yes, so we are the Central Vermont Solid Waste Management District. It is our acronym, cvswmd.org. And if you have problems accessing something, you can call our office,
So CVSWMD.org.
wm.org. Yes. And we have up at the top bar how to get rid of, and you can click on that and you can follow down to hazardous waste, or it lists out, you know, batteries, fluorescent bulbs, all that should be in the drop-down box. And if you're looking for, if you go to the hazardous waste part, and there's I think there's removing toxins from home or going toxic-free at home, something like that in there. It will give a lot more information about those signal words I mentioned, and also how the kind of the rules for finding or making safer products. Yeah.
Now, I know that you brought a list with you of some things that we really want to make sure that you are able to let folks know.
Yeah.
And so
Right.
why don't we start picking those off?
Okay, so we know some things are hazardous chemicals. Like we expect that our automotive fluids, our insecticides, our bleach, our lead, things like that. We're like, we know that's dangerous. Some people know that cleaners and disinfectants can be hazardous. Really one of the most effective ways you can clean, and it's so affordable, is you get your fragrance-free dish soap, just fragrance-free dish soap, and mix it in water and wipe down your surfaces. And in fact, before we understood how COVID-19 was spread, we kind of went crazy with disinfectants in our schools, and we didn't need to. It's a very wimpy virus when it's on a surface. It's really easy to deal with an all-purpose cleaner. If we need to use a disinfectant, like the stomach flu visits our house or something like that, then we can use a safer disinfectant that is like peroxide-based or citric acid-based, L-lactic acid-based, something that is not a quaternary ammonium compound. We call them quats. That's what I mentioned earlier, alkyl dimethyl benzyl ammonium chloride. It's in a lot of the big, like the disinfectant wipes and things like that, which we should never have children handle because they can leave a film, they're hormone disruptors. So food, we also understand that food can have pesticides and hormone mimics in it. A mimic is something that in your body acts like that hormone, even though it's not that hormone. Personal care products, which I covered, and fragrances. So the health issues that are associated with are like cancer, asthma. I'm 56. I didn't know a single kid with asthma when I was growing up. Not a single kid. And I was growing up when our parents were smoking in the home.
Right.
Right? And now it's a major issue because there are some classes of cleaning chemicals, the ethynylamines. Monoethanylamine is really common in cleaners, or used to be more common. If you're pregnant and you're exposed to it, your baby's going to have a precursor to asthma when it's born. And this is allowed to happen. Birth defects, developmental delays, hormone disruption. So these hormone mimics, so like when I was a kid growing up, breast cancer rates were about 1 in 27 women would face breast cancer. This is when people were smoking in the home. Now it's 1 in 8. Now the biggest group that's getting hit harder than ever are women under the age of 40. So we're seeing women in their 20s and 30s far more regularly. The survival rate is higher, but breast cancer changes you forever. And not just physically, but how your body functions.
Yep.
And for some women, it means that they don't get to nurse their babies or maybe get pregnant. Also, male infertility is very much linked. Male testosterone levels and sperm counts have been dropping by about 1% a year since the 1970s. The rate has increased since then. Exposure to phthalates, P-H-T-H-A-L-A-T-E-S, that's how you spell that word. And also the pesticide group that atrazine is in, if when a woman is pregnant she has exposure to these things, phthalates are plasticizers. So you want your plastic nice and soft, used to be in baby bottles. So during the time in a pregnancy when a male fetus is bathed in a testosterone bath, if mom has an exposure to this, flatline. So we're seeing those babies, and they were babies more in agricultural areas where the atrazine was being used, growing up and having lower testosterone, lower viable sperm counts, and also slightly altered genital formation. Not enough that you would be able to tell without scientific measurements. And then girls born to mothers who've been exposed to glyphosate have masculinization because the glyphosate is a testosterone mimic. So food is actually really important. What kind of food we're eating. When people get upset about GMOs, I'm actually really want to see the pesticides listed on that food. That's what I want to see.
Yep.
Because that has a profound impact. Let's see, what else? What else? Choosing safer products, we went over that. Again, the EPA is designed for the environment, for any disinfectants. Don't over-disinfect. We don't need to disinfect that much. In fact, they found that the one group of Americans with the lowest rate of allergies is the Amish, and they compared them to like the Mennonites and the Huttites and all these other people that are in farming communities, and the only difference is they get the kids out into the barns around all the animal dust really young. So we need to be around stuff. We don't need to be in a super sterile environment. Our immune systems didn't evolve for that.
Yeah, I believe that 100%. My son is a farmer.
Yeah.
And he never gets sick. I mean, knock on wood, because he literally is working around the clock. That's what they do. Yeah. So, and if he got sick, it would be detrimental to him and his livelihood. But he never gets sick, and I feel like he's always dirty. It's nothing to see him come out of the barn and you know grab something to eat, and I'm like going, oh my gosh, you know, you're not even cleaning up first, and but he never gets sick.
Well,
it's
and
crazy.
That's specific to allergies.
But he's organic farming
Fabulous,
too, which
because
makes
farming
a big
can
difference.
make people sick. That atrazine being sprayed on the corn is why the male sperm count, between that and the phthalates, the male sperm count and testosterone levels. By the way, men with low T have high anxiety. So there's a way, well, spending a lot of time on the screen doesn't help, but so farming can also expose you to chemicals, but organic farming is great. And is he a dairy farmer?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so he's also not bringing a lot of phosphate into the state from feed because they can't afford the feed, so it's almost all grass-fed, which is great. That's a perfect circle. That's a perfect loop. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now I'm like, I go off on tangents, and I'm like, oh, food. And yeah. So farming is definitely important. Also, organic is really important. You know, the history of the use of lead arsenate in this country led to a lot of major health issues, and it was used for many, many decades, as was DDT, and a lot of things we have suffered from have been caused by those things and other ones. So Environmental Working Group, don't forget that, because they sell a lot of things. They vet a lot of things you can find in your grocery store. I want to tell you their website. It's ewg.org, and if you go to ewg.org/cleaners, you're going to find the database for the cleaning products that you can find at most stores. And if you go ewg.org, Skin Deep, all one word, that's where you're going to find your personal care products. So the proper disposal, the rules for safe, proper disposal when you decide something's unsafe. By the way, personal care products are largely unregulated, and a random sample of something like hundreds of lipstick made in the US, and this was like 15 years ago, I don't know if it's gotten better, 2/3 had more than the allowable amount of lead in them. When you wear lipstick, some of it goes down your throat. So they were letting people eat lead in the name of commerce. So nail polish, very toxic. The acetone nail polish remover, very toxic. If you decide you want to get rid of this stuff, you never mix the chemicals. You have it upright. You don't, make sure you don't have leaks. If you have a container that is leaking, like something like this, you would put it in a bucket with a lid or a bin with a lid, and you would label the outside of that bin and have it tightly contained to transport it. Before we're open, if you have a need to dispose of stuff, on September 9th in Bradford, we have our household hazardous waste collection event from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the town garage. That's again Saturday, September 6th. And you can, $20 a car. It may seem like a lot, but the average car costs us about $200. If you cannot make that date and you cannot wait for us to open, because we're not entirely sure when we can take hazardous waste, because we're waiting on that flammables building that we've been waiting on for quite a while. And you can contact Chittenden Solid Waste. They have an environmental depot in South Burlington.
Let's just, one more time, what time to what time is that in Bradford?
9 to 1.
9 to 1.
Bradford Town Garage on Saturday, September 6th. And those things that I listed that you can get rid of free, we don't take those. You can go to our website and get all the details there. It's under how to get rid of, and you choose hazardous waste, and when you click on hazardous waste, there'll be a piece that comes up about appropriate disposal, and it'll give you all the details. So like if you're trying to bring us batteries, we're not going to take those. If you had a lead acid battery that was ruptured though, and it was like a, contained in a 5-gallon bucket, that would be different because it's ruptured. But we wouldn't be taking things like that, fluorescents or, and if you have house paint, I hope you'll get rid of it for free all year round at one of those outlets or when we open up for free. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to talk about lithium batteries because they're in more and more things. They're so powerful that you can get a lot of power out of a small item now, and that isn't free. There are trade-offs. So unlike your primary or alkaline batteries, there are risks. And most of our electronic devices, like our phones, our laptops, a lot of children's toys, things like that, or our earbuds, have embedded lithium-ion batteries. Lithium is water reactive. You never want to puncture a lithium-ion battery. It can lead to what's called a runaway thermal reaction, which is a really long, fancy way of saying fire or explosion. And yes, they burn at about 700 to 1500 degrees. So there are 2 houses in the Barry area that caught fire in the last year because somebody left their, I think it was both times, I think it was power tool batteries plugged in and charging.
Yes, one of those houses was in my neighborhood actually.
How terrifying, because people don't understand, and the awareness, don't ever recycle them in your blue bin recycling, don't ever throw them away or anything that has one embedded away. Those need to be disposed of safely and differently. We took them at the Ark. When we're open again, we will take these items at the Eco Depot. So don't leave a lithium-ion battery charging unattended. And if you have a charger that tells you there's a problem with a red blinking light, immediately stop charging it, and don't try to charge it again. Dispose of it safely. And once it's bad and you want to get rid of it, use clear packing tape, and you tape up any of the metal nodes. So on the long, thin batteries, it's both sides. The flat button cell batteries, it's both sides. If it's your power tool battery, it's probably the top or a thing on the side, depending on the model of battery. But you don't want the exposed metal on your power tool batteries. And take it to one of those places on our free outlets for those special recycling outlets. We also have a link to that on our home page to make it easy for folks. If you have a lithium-ion battery, the ones that are usually embedded are often soft. So sometimes what we see is somebody brings in a cell phone and the seam has separated on the side because
I've actually seen that happen before.
that is dangerous. That is a battery that is malfunctioning and is at a higher risk of a runaway thermal reaction. So what you do is you put that in like a Ziploc bag, put it in a container where it can go outside, but it will not get rained on. If it rains or snows, it will be kept dry. So like put it in a good plastic container with a lid. Put it where it won't have the sun beating down on it, far away from your building. So if it catches fire, it'll burn out there. It's not going to catch your building on fire. And then as soon as you can, you take it to a hazardous waste collection facility. Chittenden Solid Waste Environmental Depot is the place that's closest for most of us, the people in Duxbury who probably aren't listening to this, but maybe they are. They would be closer to Addison County. They have a hazardous waste collection. Or maybe the Mad River Resource Management Alliance would have something. You know, we have, when we're open, a special drum that's lined with a special material, and we contain them and put them in. Yeah, it's called cell block, and we use it. So if you have a bunch of sand laying around, you could like pack it in sand. So if it catches fire, the sand helps to smother it. So lithium-ion batteries are nothing to
sneeze at. That I came across had actually been in an old cell phone that was amongst some things. I don't even know that anybody knew that it was in a bin, but it was in a storage shed.
Yeah.
And it had been there for quite some time. And when the storage shed was finally emptied 2 or 3 years in, and that tote was being gone through, the battery had literally blown. It had split enough so that it popped the cover of the cell phone.
Yes. That can happen, and it can happen in laptops as well. And sometimes you might smell a fragrance. I haven't had this experience, but like a sweet solvent smell or the smell of rotten eggs, that can be part of an indicator that it's gone bad. I haven't seen this in like the little hard metal cased batteries like your AA's, your AAA's, or your 9 volts. I haven't seen that in those, but it's in the soft ones where there's the bloating that we've generally gotten. Which is yet another reason to not vape.
Those are the same thing?
Lithium-ion batteries, Yeah,
that you're charging and interesting.
Yeah, we've gotten ourselves in a pickle with all this technology.
For sure. I mean, there's no doubt about that, right? We want convenience. We always want convenience. That's what we're searching for. We're not necessarily looking for one more thing that you got to work to make work, right?
Right.
You just want convenience.
In life, the pace of life is so fast now, and things are far more complicated than they've ever been before. And I think, nothing goes away when we throw it away. I think it's a great opportunity to think twice before we buy something. I did just buy a new cell phone because my old one has battery issues, and it's not new, it's refurbished. I got it in Montpelier at the phone store there, and I'm having to learn a whole new operating system. I've been an Android person all my adult life, and here I am learning to do the iPhone thing, and I feel dumb, but
Yeah.
I'm learning.
I can't do it. I can't. I
Yeah.
tried. I'm Android all the way, and I tried. I tried very little, though, admittedly, and it's not for me. I don't want anything to do with it.
I am
I'm like,
determined.
now I'm very anti. Nope, not doing
I'm
it.
determined.
I'm not touching it.
I'm determined, but they've locked me out for the first week of my Apple account that I'm not sure that I have because I can't remember because I've had different products. I had an iPad for a little while for work. I have a work iPhone, but those were different email addresses. But anyway, yeah, we're a waste district. We have 19 member towns. We also want to make sure towns know that we're here for you. When the Barry Auditorium the parking lot was used to bring hazardous waste and things like that had been flooded, we are not going to get flooded again. And as soon as our facility is up and running, we're going to be able to be more proactive and more helpful than we were before. But we would like to support people in having great lives, making less waste to begin with, and when they do have stuff they have to figure out what to do with, that they do the best thing possible with it. Everything from food scraps and clean wood to blue bin recycling, special recycling, hazardous waste, etc. And we will be able to serve when our facility is open. The ARC served anybody in Vermont. We will serve any Vermonter with our facility, even if it's hazardous waste. We're not going to have the restrictions we do at our events because we're not going to be hiring a contractor so that it's costing us $200 a car. We'll be able to, those who are not in our district will pay a little more. That'll help offset the price of our in-district folks. But yeah. Yeah, and we are very happy to answer your questions on our website. You can reach us at comments@cvswdmd.org. It's a very long acronym. But we want to be as helpful as we can. And I know people out there have questions, and sometimes they don't even know we exist.
Right.
So they don't think to contact us.
Well, and I mean, I've heard plenty, though, since you've been gone from North Main. Where did they go? Where do we go now?
Yeah.
Are they going to open back up? People often wonder, is there a place? And
Yes.
And so people, I think, certainly are aware, and they want to do the right thing. But in the interim, I think that people are saying, well, what do we do with this? And so right now, people may not be necessarily disposing of things as properly because they worry about storing it.
Right, of course. And that's one reason why we made these lists of free special recycling outlets and did it by region, because people in Duxbury don't need to know about the things in Bradford.
Right.
Or Tunbridge doesn't need to know what's available in Hardwick. So we did it by region, 5 different regions within the district, so that we can just provide those resources, that information, and it should be just down the street from you and make it as easy as possible.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah.
What's next on your list?
What's next on my list? Oh my gosh, what do you want to talk about? I can't wait till we open. We're all so excited to open, and we've all been, every time a construction thing happens, and we're like, oh, okay, we're not opening in July. Oh, we're not even opening in August? Oh. So we have the household hazardous waste coming up, that collection event. We're excited about that. I am new to this position. I've only been in it for, I think, 4 months. Our website is much more functional than it used to be. It's reorganized, streamlined. I encourage people to get on there and nose around and reach out to us if you have questions. There are a lot of resources under the banner label resources. There's a lot in there. So there's resources for towns, for schools. If you're looking for a hauler or a transfer station, or if you're trying to figure out how to make less waste in your life, or you're interested in a repair fair, which we used to do something called a repair cafe, but that's trademarked, and we're going to hopefully next year start doing those again, which is something I'm really excited about. Also, I'm excited about the opportunity to go into businesses and meet people and learn what their challenges are and see if I can help them solve those challenges. Yeah.
And what about your team there? Can you tell us a little bit about your team? I'm assuming that
Yeah.
it's not like gigantic. There's
No,
probably
we're a
not
small team. I will
50
tell
of you.
I think everybody's favorite member is Roma. She's our office dog, and she makes every day a wonderful day.
Of course she does.
But we have a really good team, a solid team. Everybody there cares. Everybody there is committed to working hard. We have had a number of new hires, and there have been a learning curve for all of us, including me coming into this position and learning more software, like for design software, things like that, right? Which is one reason I think I can do the iPhone thing now. I think so. If anyone can do InDesign, they have to be able to do iPhones.
iPhones. Yeah.
But we have a great team, and we're pretty solid. So we've got the fellow Robert from Chittenden Solid Waste has the most experience with hazardous waste now. We just hired on our second hazardous waste facility operator, because that's what that title is. Operations is somebody who came up from when I started and is now kind of managing the operations supervisor, Alexandra. That's great. And Benjamin's our newest hire. Theron started as an apprentice or an intern something like 8 years ago and has worked his way up doing pretty much every job in the district and is now our general manager. And we have Mona at the front desk, Terry in enforcement. He works with the haulers, but he also is doing it in a supportive way. And then, of course, Kathy Felch, who used to be treasurer, is now our finance and HR person. And am I forgetting anybody? No, Bob, our field assistant, our longest running employee, I think 25 years. He's been there for 25 years, working hard for the district.
I mean, which is awesome. And sometimes those small teams, I mean, they make the biggest difference, right?
I think it's really
You have
good.
more time to communicate with each other and,
Right.
form a relationship, good working
They know me.
relationships.
They know me. And it's a small enough team that we really know each other, and I think that allows us to communicate better. I might be the most expressive person, whether it's a good day or a bad day, but everybody knows that, everybody knows that I think highly of them. And oh my gosh, and of course, John Jose, who's the one who told me about the job I first got to begin with, who is our school outreach person, who's so committed and has been doing it for, I don't know how many years now. Like, has it been 10 years? Something like that. But yeah, and our staff page on our website has all that information. I'm thinking about slipping a photo and a bio for Roma, the office dog, on there, but haven't done that.
You really should. What kind of dog is Roma?
She's a mix. She's a black lab hound mix.
Oh, so
With good houndy ears
So
and a
she's
really
adorable.
good woo. She's like a woo. Yeah, she's great.
Yeah.
Cheerful. She's just good energy.
Nice.
Yeah.
So one of the questions that had come in before, one of the questions when I said we were going to do this today, one of the things asked was when recycling paint. And I think you kind of already answered this, but I'm not positive. But when recycling paint, is it okay to mix a bunch of colors into one container so that the liquid is, maybe brought over to the restore or something like that for
We don't
resale?
want that. We don't
or
want that.
Should
No.
it all be?
So thank you for asking. That's a really good point, and it brings up something that's actually really important. Paint needs to be in its original container with a label for it to be free disposal. And that's important. Also, hazardous waste needs to be in the original container with a label. Some things like automotive fluids that are easily identifiable, we would be able to take when we are fully operational, but we will not be taking unknowns because part of our town agreement with Burlington and part of the fact that we are not high-level experts yet, and we may never be. So that kind of thing, we would have to send a person off to Chittenden. So you keep it in the original can with the label, whether it's latex paint, oil paint, stain, finish, sealer, all of that, original container with the label. And if you only have a little bit of label, but it tells you what it is, you tape it on there, and that's fine. Yeah.
And then you'll take that.
Right. And if your paint is latex paint and you have a garage or a barn and you've got this much at the bottom of it, you can just pop the lid off, put it in the barn where it'll dry out, even throw a little sawdust in there if you want. When it's dry, it's just trash. Yeah.
And so you don't recommend mixing
No.
colors so that you can save a gallon. You know, if you've got some yellow and some white, let's put those together, save this gallon for use later, and then I'm going to bring you the empty gallon to recycle.
No, if you're saving, if you have, let's say you have a gallon can, but you've only got a couple inches at the bottom, and you're really going to use that up, but you don't want to store that size, then put it in whatever container you want, but you need to use it up, because now what you have is an unknown that is not that EPR program that covers house paint. Their rules state it has to be in the original container with the
And
label.
paint does actually, it sours. Paint
Yes.
gets bad
Yeah.
quite easily,
if it freezes or
actually.
gets old. And there are a lot of things in paint that people are not necessarily aware of. It doesn't even have to be oil paint for it to have things in it that are toxic. I mean, latex isn't gonna, it's not flammable like oil paint or some of the stains or finishes, but you know, respect it.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
for sure.
and we're old enough to remember when paint used to always have this overwhelming odor, and now we have these low VOC paints, which are safer. And this is an example of moving in the right direction.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Can you think of anything else that you think we should share before we go?
Gosh. Yeah, children are particularly vulnerable to harm by chemical insult. Their bodies are not as developed, their organ systems, their livers, their kidneys, so they can't process the chemicals out of their bodies as easily, and those organs can be damaged by those exposures, so they don't develop properly. So it's particularly important, especially if you're either working with children or in your home you have children, that you are avoiding unnecessarily toxic chemicals.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so
you.
much for coming in. And
Yeah.
of course, I know that you'll reach out when you're all ready to open, and
Yes.
maybe we can come up and go live up in Berlin,
That would
so
be
that we can see
fantastic.
the facility, see what you do, see what, you know, different parts are.
That would be
and,
exciting. Yes.
I think it would be cool. I mean, and not a lot of us really know what happens, right?
Right.
So I think it'd be interesting to be
Yeah.
able to go and check it all out in
Right.
the different sections that you all have.
And when we figure out when we're going to open, you're invited to the grand opening.
we would love to be there. We
Yeah.
would absolutely love
Yeah.
that. That would
Yeah,
be
we
great.
want people to see it. It's exciting. We are really glad we can expand our services and help make it possible for people to dispose of their hazardous waste, their household hazardous waste, or their business hazardous waste all year round, instead of waiting for the summer, you know, the late spring through the summer and early fall, because there are a lot of reasons to not store it unnecessarily.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming. We'll definitely keep in touch. You can keep us in the loop here at 802 Scoop, and we'll definitely be a part of that day. That it would be great to be there, and
Yeah.
hopefully, with any luck, the construction will forge on, and you'll be
Knocking
ready
on wood.
soon.
We are knocking on wood. It is a slow process. There have been a few setbacks, but progress is being made.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, we wish you all the luck. Okay, guys, we are out of here for now. We will touch base on Tuesday. Jeff and I will be with you on Tuesday. And Glenn Brummert says, I appreciate all the information. I've got work to do now. So that's one of our viewers. He has work to do now.
Wonderful.
Me too, Glenn, me too. But Jeff and I will see you all on Tuesday. I do not believe that the boys from VDC will be here tomorrow afternoon. I think that they are away still. Pretty positive of that, actually. So Jeff and I will be with you on Tuesday. But tomorrow night at 6 p.m., right here on 802 Scoop, I'm going to have a special guest joining me in the studio, somebody that I am super excited to have in. His name is Justin Griffith, and he's coming down from Burlington, and we're going to talk well, maybe about some rough stuff, have some conversations about things that are happening in the Burlington community as well as the community here in Barrie, as far as drugs and homelessness and crime and all kinds of things. We're pretty much going to talk about it all. And after talking with each other and knowing where each other stand, we both felt like there's just a lot of things that right now we just need to say them. We need to get them out there on the table and really have some deep conversations. So we're going to call the show, Frankly, My Dear, I Don't Give a Damn. So that, we're putting it out there. And we hope you will all join us tomorrow night right here, 802 Scoop at 6 p.m. Until then, have a great day. Enjoy the sunshine. Today's the perfect day. It's not too hot. It's not chilly.
Perfect.
The sun's out. It's perfect.
It is so perfect.
Get out there and enjoy if you can.